Hey, what's going on, Audioholics? This is Tyler from Audioholics Anonymous, and today I'm getting into Porcupine Tree. I have absolutely no background with this band, but I have heard some solo Steven Wilson stuff, like The Raven That Refused to Sing. Well, let's get into it. So the first album that I'm going to be talking about today is In Absentia, and this is not actually a concept record, but like a lot of the songs deal with serial killers. I was expecting much heavier music based on the album cover. I mean, look at it. But it kind of just ends up being prog rock with a sort of grunge alt-rock sound to it. A lot of the time it has a very clean acoustic style. It's really interesting and unique. I don't really have much else to say about it, so let's just get into the tracks. The album opens with Blackest Eyes. Now, this is a really cool song. It opens with a badass doomy riff that it does return to later in the track, but for the time being, it transitions into a really pleasant and catchy sound using acoustic guitars and other various instruments to make up a very, very nice style. The chorus is also really catchy. I definitely enjoy this song a lot. The next song is Trains, and this is immediately less heavy than the last song. However, it does not actually feel like it's coming out of nowhere. The flow from the first song to this one is very smooth. I really love the vocals on this album. They somewhat remind me of Maynard from A Perfect Circle, but I would argue Steven Wilson is a much better singer based on this album and the next one. So about the actual song, I find it to be a very pleasant experience. It has a very nostalgic sound to it, which makes sense as the song is about Steven Wilson's childhood. Really dig it. Next we have Lips of Ashes, and I have to give special mention to the lyrical prowess of this album. It is actually very poetic and extremely well written, despite the story told in these songs. This song in particular is very pleasant and spacey, but there is an ever-present feeling of darkness presiding over every second of this album, and I just love that. It's fantastic. Next, we have The Sound of Muzak, which is the second favorite song on the album for me, and I love that main riff in the song. The chorus is also very, very catchy. There's some really obvious grunge influence you can hear on this track specifically. The unique blend of alt-rock, grunge, and prog really make this album sound as unique as it does. This album in general also sounds very, very inspired by King Crimson. Alright, let's go into Gravity Islands. This is a really creepy song. It sort of makes me feel dirty for listening to it. Really interesting how the song slowly progresses. It starts very withdrawn and held back, but as the song goes on, more and more instruments are added. It's really cool stuff. I especially love when it gets kind of heavy around 425. Really dug this one. Next we have Wedding Nails, and this is one of the songs that more prominently feature electric guitar on this album. It is an instrumental and a damn good one. Completely enjoyed it. It is a nice moment of reprieve from the onslaught the previous 5 tracks brought on. This gets you ready for the rest of the album, and for that reason, it's got really amazing track placement. So the next song is Prodigal. This song is a really interesting one. The song opens with almost a country-esque sound to it, but over top is a doomy Black Sabbath-esque lead that really adds to the atmosphere. The chorus is where this song really begins to shine, though. This album has no shortage of amazing melodies, but this one does stand out quite a bit. The next song is Point 3. This is arguably the most atmospheric offering on here. It really sets the mood, and I dig it a lot. Then we have The Creator Has a Master Tape. This is a really amazing song as well. The bass playing on this album really shines on this track. You can really hear it overall, but on this track specifically, there's some phenomenal work. Next is Heart Attack and a Lay-By, which is another one of my favorite songs on this album. It is simply amazing, and the lyrics especially on this one are extremely heartbreaking to read. Next you have Strip the Soul. My favorite song on the album by far. Again, the bass playing really shines on this track, but it gets heavy here. It's all super creepy sounding. I just love everything about it. Everything that is amazing about this album is at its peak on this track, which is why it's my favorite. Next, we have Collapse the Light into the Earth, and this is probably the saddest sounding song on the album. The song really speaks to me about a past relationship that I had, and I really love it for that reason. All right, so final thoughts on the album. Just wow. This album really blew me away. It has instantly become one of my favorite albums of all time. Has a very unique sound to it that has an ever-present feeling of darkness that just exudes from it, despite the spacey and pleasant songwriting. It is brilliant. I can't rave about how amazing this album is enough. It feels good to go from an album I don't like so much to an album that I absolutely love. Also, in case it wasn't absolutely obvious, since I literally could not even think of a negative for this album, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. Let's see how the next album stacks up. So the next album I'm talking about is Fear of a Blank Planet, and I can tell you immediately that this is a very different beast from In Absentia. It is so much more heavy overall. I would also say that the album is much proggier in areas. There's a 17-minute song on this album. In Absentia's lyrics were for the most part storytelling from a character's point of view, and this is similar in that way, but it tackles different themes. Themes that personally I relate to more. But for now, let's get into the tracks. So the first track on the album is the title track, Fear of a Blank Planet. And this song pretty much embodies how this album is different from In Absentia lyrically and musically. This song is way heavier than pretty much everything on In Absentia. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, it just makes it sound different. And I really dig the lyrical themes of this song. I myself have ADHD. I can relate with being bored of everything and constantly needing something to do. The track also deals with being heavily medicated, which I can also relate with. People in general simply don't understand how deeply certain medication can change you as a person. It has the ability to completely alter your personality and emotions. Make it to the point where you don't even know who you are anymore. But enough about the lyrical themes. Musically, this song is absolutely phenomenal. I love the delivery of Steven Wilson here, although it does get a little bit goofy. Xbox is my god. I turn on the switch, my mother's a bitch. That's pretty funny, but accurate. The melodies do work really well, though. I dig this song overall, and I think it's kind of amazing that Steven Wilson can perfectly capture what it's like to be a teenager so well, even at this point in his life. The next song is My Ashes. This song is more so in line with something you'd hear in the style of In Absentia, and it still works really well here. Nothing much else to say about it. I like it, but it isn't my favorite Porcupine Tree track. Probably my least favorite of both albums. Next, we have my favorite of both albums, Anesthetize. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to say it, but that's my best guess. Holy fucking shit, this song blew me away. This is the epic of the album, the epic of both albums. I can say that this album sounds way more proggy to me than In Absentia did, and this song exemplifies that difference. The pure musicality of this song blows my mind, more so than anything else I've heard from this band. The best part about the song is that it truly does not feel like a 17-minute song. It goes by so fast. These guys are pure genius. There's also some really amazing drumming, heavy, crushing, badass riffs, really good vocals, awesome bass, just amazing instrumentation all around. Also, Alex motherfucking Lifeson from Rush does a solo on this track around the 4:03 mark. Badass. So the next song on the album is Sentimental, and this song evokes like a Trains type of feel to it, kind of. Trains was from In Absentia, as you might remember. Both songs are very, very similar. They're both great. They're nice to listen to, but I think it's obvious this song was meant to be the Trains of this album. So the next song is Way Out of Here, and this is probably my second favorite song on here. I love when it gets really super heavy around the 4:49 mark. Truly shows off how powerful heavy riffing can be when it's used sparingly, as it is on Porcupine Tree albums. This song is just fantastic, and I love it. And finally, we have Sleep Together, which is a very weird song. Enjoyable, but very experimental. I do like it. So my final thoughts. Overall, this is an album that gets every bit of that blah. Overall, this is an album that deserves every bit of praise that I gave in absentia. And another 10 out of 10, of course. Maybe that's just because the album is heavier, but, not to say either album is better or worse. It's just my preference that this album is probably one that I prefer. All right, so that has been my thoughts on both albums. I love both of these albums a hell of a lot. I really don't have much else to say about it, so let's just wrap it up today. Did these albums make me a fan? Fuck yes. Did they help me get into prog? These are fantastic albums to introduce people to the genre of prog. Absolutely killer and definitely more digestible than most of the music we've talked about so far. Next week, I will listen to the complete opposite of that, Opeth's Still Life and Blackwater Park. Wish me luck.